All right, let's take a look at number 17 on your worksheet. Number 17, f of x equals 1/4 x squared minus x plus 9. All right, so first thing we need to do, your instructions say to identify the vertex, axis of symmetry, and if the vertex is at the minimum or maximum value of my function. All right, so first thing I need to find is the axis of symmetry, because there's a formula that goes with that. And we use formulas when we don't know if the information is not given to us, how are we supposed to find things like the vertex, axis of symmetry. So the axis of symmetry has a formula. And of course, you remember the axis of symmetry formula is negative b over 2a. So if it's negative b over 2a, we need to find out what a, b, and c are. And in a quadratic function, a is always the term in front of x squared, b is the term in front of x, and c is the constant on the back. So a in this case is 1/4, b is -1, and c is 9. Now that we have that information, let's plug it into our formula and figure out what we get. So we're going to have -1 over 2 times 1/4. Because remember, negative b, there's the negative sign, then we plug in -1. So eventually, of course, that's going to be a positive. And then on the bottom, when I multiply 2 over, I put the invisible 1 under 2. 2 over 1 times 1/4, we can cross-reduce, so I'm left with 1/2. So 1 divided by 1/2. Now, we could write this as a division problem, but remember, when we divide, I can also multiply and take the reciprocal of the denominator. So it's actually going to be 1 times 2 over 1, and then, of course, we multiply straight across, and that's going to equal 2. So my axis of symmetry is at x equals 2. And if I know the x part of my axis of symmetry, well, axis of symmetry is the x part, and axis of symmetry and the vertex are always right on top of each other. So the vertex and the axis of symmetry share the same x value. So if I already know the x value of my vertex, we plug it into my original function, and we can find out what y equals. So let's go ahead and do that. F of x equals 1/4 times 2 squared minus 2 plus 9. Order of operations tells me to do exponents first, so 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to have 1/4 times 4 minus 2 plus 9. Now, let's go ahead and put that invisible 1 under 4. And then by looking at this, can you see that we can cross-reduce here at this point? 4 over 4 equals 1. So I'm going to have 1 minus 2 plus 9. 1 minus 2 is -1. -1 plus 9 equals 8. So the x part of my vertex is 2. The y part of my vertex is 8. So my vertex is at 2, 8. Now, the last thing we need to find out is if my vertex is at the minimum or the maximum value. What that means is my vertex is either the lowest point of my graph or the highest point of my graph. And we can find out which one it is by looking at A. Going back to A, if it's positive, that means my graph is facing upwards, or it's happy. If it's negative, then it's facing downwards, and it's sad. But if it's facing upwards, that means the vertex is at the very lowest point of my graph. That's the lowest point my graph can go if A is positive, and then it goes up from there. And if it's negative, if A is negative, that means the vertex is at my highest point of the graph. My graph can't go any higher than the vertex, so that's my maximum. But looking at this problem, A is 1/4, but it's positive. So if it's positive, that means my vertex is at the minimum value, or it's at the smallest value it can be.